Welcome to the ReaganVFilms Tech Podcast, helping you add tech towards your full advantage with our guest, Danny Black. Let me go ahead and pull up his graphic because I was pretty much unprepared for this, but we'll just go ahead and pull it up right here. Danny Black has almost 13,000 subscribers with over 2 million viewers, joining us from Australia. He's basically an American in Australia, just covering like gigs and all that stuff, and GoPro tech, camera tech, and all of those sort of things. So today we're just going to hang out. We're going to talk about 5K, the K's of video, and let's just bring it in right now.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
So right now, if you have like any questions, you can go ahead and type it in the chat as we continue along the way. Now, this is like probably like my second podcast with like guest on, because the last time I did it was with Ben Schmanke and Brendan Sparks. So it's pretty cool that we got Danny Black on here. We had planned this multiple times, so we actually got it done this time.
I'm sorry, because last time, let's see, you wanted it one day and then you moved it to the day before, and I just completely forgot about that. And I felt so bad about it because I was like, dude, I'm a man of my word. I said yes to do it. So I'm glad I was able to make it on, and looking forward to the conversation here.
So as we go along throughout the stream, just know for the people watching this and on replay that I have my own link for TubeBuddy. It's tubebuddy.com/RVFTech21. If you want to go towards the SEO and search engine optimization of your videos and all that, that's what mainly the baseline that all many YouTubers would use. So as we go along with the podcast right now, you want to go over on to the first question?
Sure.
First question is, why is 1080p the main resolution on YouTube? Basically, you know.
I didn't know that was when you say the main resolution, do you mean like the kind of the default, like?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I tried to put out everything in 4K as much as possible, just because I want to future-proof some of the videos that I do. Like when you watch videos now that are 240 or 480, you're like, wow, like this was like, you could tell that it actually feels like it was 30 years ago when it really was just like 10 years ago. So I feel like with 4K, you're future-proofing some of your stuff. But as far as, 1080 being the main resolution, I guess that's probably the standard right now as far as most people are watching on devices that do about 1080, on their screens and their computer screens and stuff like that. But that's going to change soon, like the majority of people.
Yeah, especially like with like the latest video or like school film that I basically edited and directed. We're like no longer using 1080 anymore. Like we're using 4K video, but that's what we're like using. So like 1080p is like the main baseline, because not everyone right now, as a time that we're filming this video or this live stream podcasting, everybody has 1080p screens available, because like previously there was just like 480, so everybody transitioned from just having 480 into having is 1080p video. And now from 1080p video, it's transitioning now to all, like everybody has almost 4K TVs now. So that basically means there probably is going to be 4K phones anytime soon also. So that's why 1080p is like the main resolution right now, because in the future, by the time we're like watching this like way into the future, me and you just like watching this, we're going to be like 1080 is like, nah. We're going to be like 4K is even better. Like it's not even 4K anymore. It's going to be like 10K.
Yeah, and the whole like the resolution thing is a bit confusing because, they're going to keep going up with it, but is it going to be the true like resolution is what they're saying? Obviously, they're going to be able to make better quality. And I do notice I have 4K monitors in my office, and I can tell a huge difference between 1080 and 4K. But like, when new phones come out and they have the same size sensor, but they're 8K, you got to like wonder, like, how are they able to produce that quality, or even just like the drones that are coming out that are 5K, or the GoPro's got 5K as well. But do you shoot? And I guess that's probably one of the questions we're going to get to in a second. Sorry.
The next question is probably just what you just asked. What do you consider filming and rendering in 4K?
Yeah. So I actually don't render anything until I'm done. So I edit everything unrendered. I guess my computer, because I have an eGPU. I mean, any of the new computers can do this anyways, but uh, I'm able to like kind of watch everything back 4K. It doesn't show up perfectly, and a lot of times I'll miss stuff. Like I won't realize that I went out of focus at one point, and so after I edit it all down, I export it and I watch it back, and then I'll be like, oh, you know what? I don't like that. I'll go back and I'll cover it up with some B-roll or something like that. But yeah, rendering, I feel like that just will just add way more. Like especially when I know I have friends like Jay Boston. He says that he'll put his whole project out in the timeline, and he'll add all of his LUTs and stuff like that, and then render that out before he even starts editing it. I'm like, that's a lot of wasted computer power, and also unnecessary like render files that will stack up in your hard drive.
I'm kind of like meh on this one because like when I go with like filming and rendering in 4K, and hopefully I linked in the iCard above after this live stream on the replay, you're able to check it out. The school film that I directed for my school and my school district sort of thing. I actually just like edit it, like part of it, like the first half that you see from intro all the way up to like the pandemic part. That's where it was like all rendered in 4K, like 2 or 3 months ago, and then all of like the clips, because there was like an estimate on my editor that says that there was like at least 3 million like hours or video or something like that. There's like tons of like video clips into the video, so it's
Yeah,
kind
sometimes
of
it's easier to edit
confusing.
it. Yeah, if you have a longer project, sometimes it's easier to cut up into like certain like quarters or thirds or something like that, just to work on certain things and then bring them together at the end and render it out. Yeah, it's a fast way to edit for sure.
Yeah. And then the next question that we got up is there a higher dynamic range with higher resolution? It's kind of confusing, but you get the
Well,
yeah.
as far as from what I've always been told, the dynamic range is basically between like the shadows and the brights, and being able to capture them both at the same time, so that if you're filming something in the shadows, your sky wouldn't be all washed out in white. They use the dynamic range to be able to kind of balance that in between and get both things. But with a higher resolution, I could be a little bit wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure, but with
Yeah.
the higher resolution, I feel like it just captures more detail, and that might, I don't know. I've never actually had those two in the same question before. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
To me, I know like I've heard from Ben Schmanke when I talk to him when he has time, and when I usually use my GoPro, because I'm using my GoPro right now. Uh, I kind of actually see higher dynamic range, strangely enough, on the GoPro, because like on the GoPro, it's like the internal hard drive, because the lens is actually a fake lens. So if there's like
Yeah.
this lens right here, then I can just go ahead into my OBS software. Let's go ahead and pull that up. And I can just make it a fake lens by even zooming into myself even more. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm.
yeah. And while there's like looking like that there's higher dynamic range, strangely enough on the GoPro, the software is like a bit better with what is it called? It's a bit better with 5K than strangely 4K, because like when
Oh
you
really?
would use 4K, it would become darker. And then when I switch to 5K, it's like it's brighter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the GoPro too, it's kind of nice when you film in 4K. You can obviously shoot it. Is it 120 frames per second at 4K,
I
or is
think
it just 60?
that's that could be 60.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. But with 5K, I mean, I think you just got to be like when you're shooting 5K just straight out of the box, you got to be outside in the sunny condition You know, like a
Yeah.
perfect example would be like anywhere, like going to the beach or something like that. Everything looks fantastic. But also, it's like you need something in the foreground for the most part. Kind of like when you're just shooting something 5K and just getting everything, you when you watch it back, you don't feel anything. Like you just it does, you don't go like wow. But as soon as you have someone in the foreground of that, I don't know, it kind of adds an extra element of like this is the quality just looks 5K. It looks superb. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was like,
It captures the detail on the
yeah.
person better than like just like the whole landscape that you're shooting.
Like the best part that I like about the GoPro is that like I could film in 5K and then I can have it on super view or like wide and I can just zoom in. Like you can see this in the school film if I know some of my friends are watching this in the replay right now. So I actually you might think that there's one lens, but when you see that zoom in, like for my friends, like you know Jack Shutt, for when he was representing for Santiago, it was not like it was like far, but I just zoomed in and there was like no decrease in quality because I would use 5K, which it was filmed in 5K, which basically gives us the access towards higher dynamic range because at that time it was like meh ish with the shade
Yeah,
and all that. So strangely enough, when you film in like 5K or like the K's going higher, there's like a higher dynamic range and like when you're going down to like 4K. Strangely enough, and also the frames per second actually plays a factor in a role because I know that some of my friends are like 4K, 60 FPS. I'm like 60 FPS. Come on, you gotta match it. You gotta match it with 25 FPS because
yeah,
like
yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't like really know with like frames per second because 60 frames per second is mostly used for slow motion. 25 frames per second is usually used for what we see right now, like because there's motion blur. So if I just put my hand right here, it would just go straight through. But let's just say that I rendered a school film or like any other client project with just 60 frames per second. That's a bit cheesy because when you do
Well,
it, you're actually gonna be like lag. Wouldn't there be like lag?
well, so you're in the States, right? What part
Yeah,
of the States are you in?
California,
California. Sweet. What part of California, by the way?
Southern California. Yeah,
What part of Southern California?
yeah.
I was born in Pomona, so I, I lived down in Southern California for a while. But so here's the thing: the whole like frames per second thing. When you're talking 60, you're talking 25, you're talking 50. Really, it's what for the states because it's NTSC. It's a
Oh
different kind of
yeah,
frequency for the lights. That's why you notice when you go somewhere, sometimes if the lights are flickering, you have to change your frame rate to like PAL and so from PAL to NTSC or something
NTSC.
like that.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting, so right now in Australia, we do PAL, which is 25 frames per second instead of 30. And then to offset that too, like it'd be like multiples of it. So basically you shooting 30, 60, 120, we shooting 25, 50, 100. And so the actual best frame rate for like that cinematic feel that you're talking about for being over in the States, I'd actually even drop it down to 24 frames per second because I believe they have that as an option. So you have to play with that a little bit. But I think that you're right too, that even going from 30, if you're editing in a 30 timeline, 30 frames per second timeline, and you're shooting it at 25, it's kind of gives you that same essence, but you might capture more flickering of the lights or some kind of weird refresh rate of a computer or something like that.
Totally. And also like I actually use 25 frames per second or like 24 frames per second for like interviewing my teachers. And also the city by the way is Corona. uh pretty fishy name. Yeah. And so like as there's NTSC PAL, it's like there's like a bit of a difference, but the standard is it this do you know if the standard is NTSC in the States or
Yeah,
PAL?
yeah, it's NTSD
Yeah.
in the States,
Yeah. And then in
and
Australia it's
PAL just about
yeah.
everywhere else
Yeah.
because it has to do with like voltage frequency. Like so, I know it sounds a bit like nerdy, I guess, but you guys, your voltage for like your plugs, standard plugs is like 110, and
Yeah.
ours out here would be 240, and that's the same for like Europe and stuff. So I think it has something to do with those frequencies. So that's why they have those different frame rates as far as just offsetting 30 to 25. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Confusion between frame rates, but I think we got it done. I think we can understand it. Hopefully. Yeah. There's like tons of frame rates, all that stuff. But just for my friends, if they're gonna get into the filmmaking space, don't just use 60 frames per second like all the way, because
Yeah,
it's usually used for slow motion. So if you want to get like that
yeah,
cinematic look that we're talking about, the interview look from the school film or anything like that, go 24 frames per second or like 25 frames per second. It's
yeah.
a whole lot better with
60,
it.
60
Yeah.
can be good though. When you don't
Yeah.
know, like it's good that you can slow it down half and keep the same quality when shooting 60. But if you know that you're not going to be slowing it down, then there's no reason to shoot it 60. But if you're like, maybe there's going to be something I need to slow down, so I'll shoot it in 60 like that. That's okay.
Yeah, because like
But,
I've
yeah.
always thought before I learned about frames per second that I would always go 60 frames per second, when really that's the incorrect way. Because I always thought that I could just shoot in 60 frames per second. No, there's like no difference. I'm like, I could downgrade it. I'm like, and then right when I learned about it, I was like, I've been doing it wrong. I'm supposed to do that at 25 or like 24. All right, so the next question is pretty simple with what we have. What device supports viewing and filming in 2.7K and above?
What device supports viewing and filming? Okay, so there's two separate questions then, like, or do you mean like the viewing and filming at the same time in 2.7K and above?
It's like either or, because like you would have to like film in like 2.7K or like whatever resolution that is. And then like right after you have to like view it. So it's like 2.7K above and all that stuff. For like
Just
the
like
GoPro
even
Hero
like
9, it's like that you
yeah.
have to film in like the K of video, and then like it's pretty glitchy on the front screen or like the back screen.
Oh,
Like
it's
that.
when you're shooting at
Yeah.
5K, the front screen is like total glitched out with that.
Yeah.
It's very weird. But yeah, I mean, because you know that like I'm sure that the screens on the GoPro are 2.7K. I have to double check. I'm not 100% sure, but like they're so small. There's no reason to have a 4K screen on, especially on the front
Yeah.
and on the back, because you're not really seeing it in a 4K way. It's so tiny. It's like having an Apple Watch and having 4K on it. Like,
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you wouldn't be able to see those little millions of pixels. So I think that yeah, as far as a device that shoots, and I also think that's the ZV-1 Sony. I really like that camera. It's great. Um, I don't even think that screen does 2.7K as far as screen. Now, when you're looking at the new phones, all the phones will shoot 4K.
Yeah.
On, but and the screens are getting better and better. So I don't even know if we know what the resolution is exactly on some of the newer phones. Let me see if I can look that up. But do you have any ideas for that answer?
For me, it's like, because the GoPro is pretty good on 2.7K and then processing it down to 1080, because that's what most of the screens would need for, especially when editing. Because whenever I usually edit, it usually converts to 1080. So this question is kind of hard that I put, but like the device that supports it, it's not exactly 4K or like exactly in 2.7K. It's basically
Right.
like how much can it like really render to be like 1080 to show and replicate 4K in that 1080 version, because you would have to like zoom into the pixels to make sure it's like accurate and all that. But it's just
Yeah.
like a whole process.
I think that so the iPhone 12, 12 Pro Max, they say it has a 4K display, kind of. It will display the 4K ultra high definition like videos, and use a higher dynamic range HDR display to kind of so that allows you to kind of watch it in that 4K without it actually being 4K. I believe that's how it works. I'm gonna move over to some shade here because I'm getting blown out by the sun.
Yeah, sure. It's like almost nighttime right here.
Yeah, it's 12. It's noon over here. It's the future. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, the future's right over there. Danny's in the future right now.
That's right.
I'm going into the future tomorrow. Okay. So the next question, I'll go ahead and actually pull up before the trivia because it looks like that there's nobody joining right now on a Clubhouse, which is kind of, but you know,
I don't understand Clubhouse. I haven't really. Hey, by the way, I'm going to California. How about that? See, it's their hometown or home state. Yeah, I don't understand Clubhouse. I've never understood the appeal to it. It doesn't really. I don't even understand how it's gonna kind of be a success going forward. I don't know.
Yeah, true. Because like with Clubhouse, it's like it's there, but you're supposed to have like a list of friends in order to like do it. Like, it's kind of pain.
Or it's like you have to be like already a celebrity to be in Clubhouse to be successful in Clubhouse.
Yeah.
You can't just grow a Clubhouse out of nothing. Like nobody's gonna come over there. It's a bit.
It's not like YouTube where you have to do like your SEO and all that stuff, and then your own marketing.
Yeah.
Because like, if you can look here clearly, you just put it in, and then basically that's like most of it. So a group, and I'm like, there's no people that's gonna join anyways. But with like Clubhouse, it's just like a hangout like app. So it's like Google Hangouts, but it's just with like voice sort of thing. But it's really, really confusing with it. There's like no marketing, no SEO, all that stuff. Okay, so this question, let's just go for H.264 or H.265. I've been hearing this a whole lot from Insta360. Like, I was just editing a video about Insta360, and it's like 264, 265.
Well, I still want to get into this 360. I have yet to do it. This is a little bit away from your question, but I had like the one that attached to like the iPhone, like the Nano, where you had 360 connected on your phone. And that was pretty cool. But the coolest part about that is that you could use it as a 360 live stream, which I couldn't find anywhere else that would do something like that, where people can watch and they can scroll around live. And I thought that was pretty cool. Although the quality was not so hot, but so H.264 or 265, I pick 265. I think that's more compatible with most platforms. I believe so. Let me kind of like having a little search thing so that we can make sure that your viewers get the correct information. What do you prefer?
I would go for H.265 because I have like a Wisecam outdoor that renders in H.264. I'm like, if that's really H.264, it looks really blurry because it really does.
Yeah, well, they say 265 is the video compression standard. It was designed for the newest generation of high resolution video. So I would definitely stick with that. 265 HEVC supports resolutions up to 8K. Wow.
8K. Imagine instead of like H.265, 264, 265, and every like 2 years later there's like 266, 267, 268, and it continues along the way. That could possibly happen.
I'll tell you, how old are you, Regan?
Hold on, you broke up a bit.
Oh, how old are you?
14, like about to start freshman
14?
year. Yeah.
No, I think it's fun. I think that we're all collectively. I mean, even if you're born, in 2006. Wait, I'm trying to do math. We're 2007. 2007.
Yeah.
Or if you're born in the 80s, I think that we're in a really exciting time to see technology progress, and it's a bit confusing because it's going such an exponential growth where it's not like it was kind of coming out. Okay, CDs were here tapes were here for a while, like 10 years, and then CDs for a bunch of years. Then we went to like iTunes, and then it's just not. But everything's kind of like going quicker and quicker and faster, which is exciting and terrifying at the same time, because you wonder how far can it go, because it's hard to imagine. You know, you weren't around, you know, when it was tapes to CDs, or I remember having a CD going.
I remember
This is amazing that they, yeah, well, it's amazing that you could put the music on a CD, and it's like, how can it get better than that? You know what I mean? Like, you back then, you just could not imagine. And then if somebody was to tell you, I had an uncle that worked for Intel, and this was in the early 2000s, and he was like, you know, they're gonna have it so that you can rent videos on something the size of a lipstick. And we're all like, what? No way. No way. That's impossible. What? No. How are they gonna? And then obviously that came and went. Like, it's not even on, they don't even get the USB stick anymore, you know?
Yeah, I remember like holding, like, because my parents were like born around like the time where tapes were still available. I remember just holding tapes when I was so curious, and I accidentally like wanted to open it up, and I'm like, oh, it's a tape. And I'm like, is this tape used for like sticking on windows and stuff? And I'm like, no. And then my parents showed me how to actually view it and how to actually like see it. And then like the next thing right after was like those like huge music discs, which is pretty cool, which is still replicated in Minecraft. But as it continues along the way, then there's like these CDs. I remember just giving my teacher, or like my I think it was in second grade. I was in second grade at that time. And I was like, here's a CD, and with like a whole week was just like nonstop. Here's a CD with like a PowerPoint about curious facts all the time. And then I just gave my teacher way too many CDs. And she's like, okay, good enough. And I'm like, okay. And then the next school year, right after, when I was in third or fourth grade, then I basically, because I had a project again about facts and stuff, I got like a USB hard drive. I got it. I just plug it in. And I'm like, this is pretty neat, because then I don't have to get like a CD and then put on the file, give it to the teacher, do it all over again. Because for the USB, I just like plug it in, save it, and all that stuff. But then right after USBs were like made, like 1 or 2 years later, then it was like, hello, welcome to Dropbox. And I'm like, okay, we're going to use Dropbox now. And I'm like, I'm going to use it. And I'm like, the free storage is gone already. So then I just go over, what's next after Dropbox? There's Mega. So I just use Mega. I'm like, I used up all the free storage again. And then I just switch over onto Google Drive, which is the most commonly used now. I'm like, I filled it up. I actually filled it all up. So now I'm like, how can I back up my photos? I'm like, Google Photos. I'm like, they still do it for free, but they don't like upload in higher quality anymore, starting from this month. But yeah, you can just see the whole generation from just tapes, CDs, discs, and then as it goes along the way, USBs,
hard drives,
and then hard drives, and now it's like hard drives aren't even there anymore. It's like you have to have an SSD, like a solid state drive now.
Yeah, true. But that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Hard drives can fail over time, because it's like magnetic, spinning stuff. But
like the most,
that's the
the most or like best thing that everybody could do right now is switch from a hard drive to an SSD, because if you don't, and then you're like on accident, like I didn't delete it, or like I deleted it or whatever, and with an SSD, like you could just recover it immediately. While for the hard drive, because it's like spinning nonstop, it's like people don't even realize that a hard drive is actually just like a CD that's just always spinning nonstop. With the hard drive, right when that tick that's like reading or like writing onto the hard drive, right after it goes off, you can't find the file anymore. Well, for the SSD, it's like you just get the encrypted code, and boom, you have your file back and all of that stuff. And it's way thinner too.
Yeah. I mean, you can even just get like SD cards, you know, just to store a bunch of your stuff and just have that on as backup instead of exactly. I mean, those are cheap. Like, when you consider like getting, you know, big SSD hard drives, just get the SD cards, fill those things up. Now, I mean, there are problems with those. Like, sometimes those can fail as well. I mean, really anything can fail. So
Yeah.
your backup plans got to be like, really thorough. You got to have the backups for the backups for things that you absolutely must keep. Otherwise, if something gets deleted, then you go, oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to move on with my life in that regard and start fresh. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, we got a little bit
But yeah,
topic, I guess.
like I basically have is like this speed reader. I just plug it in with like any one of these 3 ports available right here. There it is. And I just plug it in. And with these like little SD cards, you can just have like as like an archive or like a hard drive that's used for archiving. Hard drives are used for archiving stuff now. But then with these SD cards, or like these little SD cards, you can have up to is it 128 gigabytes, and like I know it reaches 128 gigabytes, but it gets higher from there.
Yeah, I always pronounce it archive.
Oh,
that's the new California way to say it, archive. Like
I don't know. It's like my generation. That's how we say it, like archive.
I love it.
Archive. And it's like sometimes we like have a country accent out of like nowhere. Sometimes I get an Australian accent like out of nowhere too.
It's always fun living in a different country with an American accent, especially because sometimes these places they don't know the difference between Canada or American accent, and because like Canada and Australia, they're kind of in the Commonwealth with England, so they'd assume that I was Canadian first, and I'm always just like, no. Anyway,
yeah. And next one, well, let's go for the difference between awesome and terrible lighting. We know this one basically. Yeah, this is like 5K, 4K, 2.7K, 1080p, 480, 360p, whatever resolution. It'll not work if you have bad lighting.
Yeah. Well, the lower resolutions, you can at least turn up like the ISO. Now with GoPro, I've made several videos about this, but like if you have low lighting, first thing you do, you turn off hypersmooth. Like even right now, I don't know if your hypersmooth is on for your camera.
I think it's on.
Are you using it as a webcam?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
is it a webcam
on.
or you have it plugged in?
I have it plugged in right now.
Are you plugged in like through HDMI or are you plugged in through
the
the webcam?
Yeah. Right there. Just USB-C.
So HDMI, yeah. So USB-C. Okay, so yeah, then I think the hypersmooth is off. I think it automatically turns it off with webcam mode. It just puts it in certain resolutions. It doesn't give you a lot of control. But with the lower resolutions, in video mode, you can turn up like the ISO, turn off hypersmooth, turn up the ISO and like the shutter speeds, and you can actually get decent views. I was in Hawaii and swimming with the manta rays, and it was like midnight when you do it, so it's like dark. They have just certain little lights shining down, and I was like, okay, man, GoPro is not good at low lighting, so I just like tried to change a bunch of stuff. And I was like, hopefully this works, and the quality was amazing. The first thing is turn off hypersmooth, and then you have to set. You don't want ISO on auto. You want to have it set like low, so that it's not like constantly changing, and then that makes it distorted and stuff like that. So, but the higher the K, the higher the quality or resolution. Yeah, you need to pump those lights in, depending on the sensor size, I guess. A lot of factors in there.
Let's go ahead with this question. Oh, I think the last question before trivia. So, how long is the video rendering process with the video editing software, and or is the YouTube thing? We both know it's going to be long on YouTube because
well, so when you say rendering, are you saying just like editing, or are you saying like you render your effects?
This one specifically is the video editing.
Video editing, okay. So the video editing process, I use Final Cut Pro. I've actually been using it for 20 years. So I've been using it since it was basically first introduced. And so the process for me right now, unfortunately, it's kind of a long one, depending on how the long the video is, obviously. But I try to do now more scripted stuff. So I'll do a review and write out the script of how the intros, and making sure I say this and that, and then I'll just kind of read off the script because it's legit the review, and then I'll cut some B-roll and stuff like that to make it over. But I would say each video would take me at least 8 hours to finish, and that's from from the writing, recording, editing, and even the whole upload process to YouTube, as far as creating the thumbnail, coming up with the right title. Then you got to share it out to certain things. Like it's a man. I hate that part. That's my least favorite part. And then even people commenting, which is great, but you want to kind of respond to comments, and that takes up some time too. So I'd say at least 8 hours, unless it's like a 1 minute video. I could probably do that in like 3 or 4. I think that
especially with like my video process.
Okay.
I was on mute for some reason. But like with my video editing process, it's also pretty long too, because like I use Vegas Pro 17. I've been using it for about, let's just say 4 or 5 years. So as I'm like getting into 4K stuff now with the rendering process, like it's long, but because of like my specific processing software, like it's just Intel. I forgot the code, but it was just like Intel, and it would usually speed it up, because without just using my own laptop's like Intel graphics code, then it would not really like speed up that much. I remember without the code, it would take about 3 hours, but with the code, it was just like an hour long at least for like a 5 to 10-ish minute video. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it didn't. I'm annoyingly kind of a perfectionist, and this is kind of a bad thing to be on YouTube. You almost don't want your videos too polished on YouTube, but it's just hard for me to like go through and see like a bad edit, or something I need to cover up, or something I need to fix, and not do it. Like even if there's something where I'm talking and I go to the next thing, and when I don't like how I said this phrase, so I'm going to cut it and blend it in with the next phrase. I'll actually change the speed of how I end it to make it sound more natural. Like I do all the stupid stuff, and then I'll watch like Sarah Dietschy, who's got like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, or maybe even more, and her cuts are so rough, and it drives me crazy as an editor, like a perfectionist editor.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. She's getting the views, and most of the people watching probably don't even notice, don't even care. So that's I wish I could turn it off. I'm trying to find ways to do that. Even with the whole 30-second Thursday concept I brought to my channel, I was trying to be, okay, listen, this is more like freestyle, but I'm still editing those pretty thoroughly too. Yeah. So it's tough.
Me is like almost pretty similar, because like whenever I see my school district or like anybody around like SoCal or like around my region, when I usually see them just doing hard cuts at the wrong time, I go crazy about it also. I'm like, why are there these hard cuts when it's not needed? And I'm like, why is it there? But like whenever I do, But like whenever I do it, like it's always like a transition. Like you have to go with the flow. It's like those edit pacing that you gotta keep up with, because if we go like, let's just say that we're going on a drone shot, and then we just do like a hard cut right at like an intersection, then the next hard cut will not make sense when it goes over onto the freeway shot.
Yeah. It's the struggle, but see, that's also the part of just constantly creating as you learn that stuff. I mean, I look back at some of my videos when I was flying drones, and I would speed ramp it up, and it's like you see the ocean in the waves, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the waves are moving faster. Oh, they're moving faster. Oh, they're moving faster. And then you're finally out. And then I was like, man, it was such a, because I wanted to share that whole thing, but it wanted to make it quicker. But it looked so dumb that I was like, I started just go back a little bit, and then I just take a chunk of it and put it down to like 10 frames. So it's like, just, you don't even see that part of it, like, except just the motion of it, and then it's out far. And that creates so much more of an impact. But anyways, that's just the stuff that you learn as you go, and you look back on it, and you're like, I remember thinking I'm the coolest drone pilot, flying it all around Australia. and then I look back at that footage and I'm like, oh man, you're terrible.
Yeah.
I was also editing on like a MacBook Air. You couldn't really see your 4K files, like it would be really choppy, so you had to kind of trust it was good.
Yeah, especially when I did it, you should I don't know if you had checked yet, but you should check the school film that I worked on. Like it should be on my channel right now. But that school film, I did those like little speed ramps too. I was like, if there's one speed ramp for this high school, why did I forget to like add it onto the rest? Which is what actually happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So then like on the current official version, like, you can see that there's a speedy ramp for all of the high schools, mainly because some of the campuses are actually really huge. So I actually had to actually do the speed ramps, but it looked pretty cool. Right when I first did a speed ramp, I was like, I've never done a speed ramp before, so I'm like, let's just do a speed ramp.
Ah, I'm looking at
Yeah.
your. So this is from 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Is the video you're talking about?
Yeah.
So it's is it? Yeah. So it's kind of showing what you guys did throughout the year.
Yeah. So that part where I had the speed ramps are right when I it's like the high school mashup or like HS mashup, which is shown in the timestamp.
What's it? Was it? It's funny to think about school and like the video clubs would have like drones and stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah.
like you don't have to worry about any kind of like dramas with the FAA or whatever, like flying over your school or
Yeah.
like if they all get permits for that.
For like FAA stuff, for me, I actually had to declare. So like when you see on the very bottom right, when it shows another logo, that's basically whoever shot the drone footage. And then at the very end, you can also see that there's like a name that I had to put just to put and declare. But
so it was not you that flew the drone.
It's not me. But when I'm in high school, I'm like able to, but like around the intermediate and elementary schools, I can't really fly. So I usually have Google Earth or a person. I was like I'm like just emailing them like 3 times at least. I'm like, can you get drone shots about this? Can you get drone shots around this, please? I'm like, I just need these key drone shots just to make the cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool with these drone shots because like if I am not allowed to get it and I just ask another person from the district to get it, and then it just goes through perfectly because without those drone shots, it wouldn't be that great for sure.
Yeah, it always adds a little bit more. It like just kind of makes you feel like you just kind of have the, I don't know, it makes it more open. It makes you kind of see it from a bigger perspective, which is cool. Yeah. Drones are awesome. I hate that they've been so heavily regulated. I think that it was an amazing tool. I think that one of the big downfalls was making them cheaper. And then like all the, like Ross's and stuff like Marshalls, like they would actually sell drones that were like crap, like for like $30. And then people would crash those. And so people would associate those with DJI. And then DJI coming from the Phantom 4 was so expensive. It was like $3,500 US or something like that when it first came out. And that was, I love cheaper tech for sure, but the fact that it was so expensive and that not everybody was buying it and not everybody was flying it to annoy people or to crash it, so for them to create all these regulations. So yeah, I think that making them cheaper was kind of a bad idea.
Yeah, true. Like when they make it cheaper, it's basically a bad idea because then you get to see these like full clips on YouTube that's just being sent out. Like if there's like tons of drone crashes around your specific area and you know for sure, and then they uploaded it to YouTube without knowing or thinking, then you would just see drone crash in your specific location, drone crash at this location, drone crash at this part. Like, and then we're like as actual like drone pilots, because I know I go through the FAA process too, and all the other filmmakers, like when we go through, we're like, come on, just stop showing those drone crashes, or else there's gonna be more regulations, and then we can't just fly it anymore. Yeah. I know that there's like some people around Southern California, like whenever I fly a drone, they're like, I want a drone too. I'm like, well, if you really want to fly a drone, you have to go through all the safety stuff. If you don't, you get regulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it better when there's no regulations, like because they were
Yeah.
so new to them, and it was so new too that people would come over and watch you fly it. And they would actually be your best friend. They'd be like, "What? That is so cool! I want to buy one of those things." You know, like they were so impressed by it. But now
Yeah.
it's like you feel like if you're flying in public, people are gonna come up to you and be like, "You can't do that." You know, exactly. Sound just
Yeah.
like that too.
All right, so let's go ahead and go for the trivia round since we got time
All
around
right.
46 minutes. What is the best outdoor activity you had done so far? Which you're outdoors right now, and I just went outdoors like many hours ago too. Just like, you know.
The best outdoor activity that I have done so far, man, I have done so many things. I would scariest would be jumping off of a bridge, doing the bungee jump. That was definitely the scariest experience I've ever had. But I like to hike, as far as like hike up to a point where you have this beautiful like outlook. So that would
Yeah.
probably be my favorite outdoor activity.
My best outdoor activity would mostly be like anything with like action or something like that. Mostly like if I have like neighbors or like many people like around SoCal and the beaches. If you go surfing, basically anybody who you go like right next to for your limbo line or your zone 3 line, basically those are like just your considered friends because you're just like doing surfing, and it's pretty cool how like they all group together like as if they're actual friends. And then another good outdoor activity is like just like what you said, hiking, because if you just like bike all the time, then you can't really go up like hiking all the time. But
Yeah,
basically, like I like doing almost all of the stuff pretty much outside because being outside with nature is pretty awesome. Especially when we're like doing those like camera things. There's like people that's like, huh, you got that out. And around like my neighborhood, they're like, nice camera. And sometimes the neighbors are like, why are you holding that out? I'm like, I don't know.
yeah. Have you ran into Casey Neistat while you've been in SoCal?
Not right now. As of
No, not right
yeah.
now.
Okay, so the next question that we'll pull out is, what is the best camera accessory you ever have?
The best camera accessory would be a microphone, but that's not the coolest one. The best. Okay, I love this little. I have a little dolly. It's motorized. You can get it on Amazon for pretty cheap, actually. You put your camera on it, and then it's remote control, so you get these like kind of like slow pan. Like you can kind of angle it, so you get these really cool shots for products and stuff like that. That's probably my favorite. I also have a remote control car that I'm supposed to get the Insta360 Go 2 sent to me from them. It hasn't happened yet, but they told me they're going to send it when they got stock. But I bought this remote control car that I want to put on to get some awesome shots down low. So that's in the works. There we go. That's it. What
Yeah,
about
for
you?
like my best camera accessory, I would say for like right now, it's probably just a GoPro right here with the USB-C because if I'll just turn this around right here. I got my camera right around there, and I can't connect it because all the USBs right now are just like packed. And the other thing is the audio, because if you see the original live stream that I did with Ben Schminke and all that, I kept on cutting out, while for this one there's like crispy audio with the TRRS to TRS adapter right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got it. You got the TRRS thing down.
Yeah. And then the next one right here, and last question. What is what is your weirdest YouTube creator moment?
Ooh. Well, you tell me yours first. So I can think about mine.
I would say mine was pretty weird when I was managing and directing my elementary school film, because right when I had to reveal to the entire school that I was the one directing and that it's going to be on my channel. It was pretty awkward because then people are like, you have a channel? You never told me about that. I'm like, well, now you know. And then I was like, yeah, we just have that. And then right now, when I actually had to announce it towards my intermediate school or middle junior high school, something like that, when I had to announce it to my entire school again because I was directing it for that school and stuff like that, then they're like, oh, really? And they're like quiet for like that week. And right when it was back up again, and they're like, oh, it's cool. And they're like, yeah. So then I'm like, yeah, it is there. And then the next weirdest part of school and just like is that right after, which I'm still waiting for my teachers to respond, that they're like now requesting me to film stuff because around the campus because they ordered or like had many years ago to make like a video for their specific subject or elective for incoming sixth graders or something like that, however the school system goes. And they said that they never got the video done. So I'm like, why had you never got the video done? And I'm like, okay, we'll get it done now. We're like 1, 2, 3, 4, like almost 4 orders now, but I'm still waiting for the email to go through. But yeah, it's been pretty weird how I just release it and then now it's just like, let's do one for this elective, this elective, this elective. Like, I'm like, sure, but like they had to wait so many years just to get it done. Like, come on, like whoever's supposed to originally film it, like, why aren't they doing their job?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So my weirdest, so I think the weirdest moments for me would be like, I became like so into the YouTube scene. I would be friends with so many YouTubers that, from all around the world. Like I'm doing a podcast with my YouTube friend that lives in England. We do it weekly, and I've never met him in person, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
YouTubers that like I'd actually consider them some of like my bestest friends, and meeting them for the first time in real life, that's the weirdest moment because you know everything about them. Like it's weird to have that kind of relationship where you watch their vlogs, you watch their videos, you know their whole life, and then you see them in real life, and you're like, it takes it from 2D and makes it 3D. It brings you into that real life and it's a weird thing for your brain. You're like, oh, I'm so used to seeing this person, hearing their voice talk on a screen, and now here they are in real life. It's a very weird moment as a YouTuber.
I'll actually add onto this, which is kind of off topic, but before, like from March 2020, when the pandemic started, and all the way until now, like right around March 2021, when I got back to school with my friends, just hearing my teacher from just like being on Zoom or like watching a YouTube video, let's just put it like as that. Like right when we went back in person, like when I heard my teacher, I'm like, does that really sound like them? Because like there's like the muffles and all that with the computer microphones and what's like available.
Yeah, that's so weird what you guys have to go through in this generation of kids having to do this whole Zoom thing for a year. Like, that's it. I would have given anything to have that growing up because that would have been the coolest. Oh, I get to stay home and do school from home. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Like that would have been awesome. But I'm sure that there's obviously a big drawback to it that you don't see until you're probably into it, where you miss your friends, you miss that real life human connection. So yeah.
Yeah, like the original part that my school district cut out was all the way until like spring break. So then we're all just celebrating like, yay, we don't have to do school. We're like, we got to do homeschool. We got to try it out. But then later on, right after it reaches spring break around here in SoCal, then it reaches for like a whole year that we have to do this thing online, and we're getting eye strains. Like I even have glasses right now. I don't really need to wear them right now since we're just like chatting, but when I'm editing a video, I would have to need to use that. Or like if I'm doing a Zoom call all day, I'll have to use that. Basically,
Yeah, 'cause it
almost
helps with that
everybody
eye strain.
now. Yeah, basically, like almost everybody now, they have like blue light glasses, prescription glasses. Like almost everybody. Like nobody used to have that,
Wow.
but everybody does now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like if you just go up towards like a neighbor or like a friend, and like if they don't have like glasses for that specific type, it's pretty rare now because every time you go up to like a person and like, oh, did you get your blue light glasses or whatever? And then they're usually like, oh yeah, we actually do. And then like basically almost everybody has these glasses now because we've been inside for a whole year. And it's been,
Wow.
I got like about 2-3 strains from doing online school, which is, yeah, pretty absurd. Yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, so I think that's most of the stream. We got 1 hour right here. But yeah, SEO and all that stuff, tubebuddy.com/RVFTech21. And I've also released as a video course on ReaganVFilms.thinkific.com, where it's basically just going into the basics or like what is available. I don't know what the price about it right now. It's at $27 USD, but it could change because I don't really know about it. But yeah, it's just like my first video course just got released, ReaganVFilms.thinkific.com, where just
Cool, man.
we go like GoPro with video. It's basically the
I think
course.
you just keep doing what you're doing, and
Yeah.
I think your YouTube channel is gonna keep growing. You need to
Yeah.
you have to just, unfortunately these days you have to start out creating clickable stuff and evergreen stuff. So
Yeah.
anything that you make it so that it's gonna get people, it's gonna somehow show up on a recommended page, and that's how your channel grows. But you have a cool personality. The fact that you're young is awesome, but you have all this intelligence with it. You definitely bring that to the table. Let
Yeah.
people know how young you are. Be like, yeah, I'm this young guy and I'm doing this. And people are like, this guy's cool. I'll subscribe.
I remember just like filming weddings, and then I was like into like a Facebook group just to like get feedback. And then right when I was doing my last wedding before the pandemic, people are like, "What's your age?" I'm like, much lower than you think." And like, and they're like, "You're gonna be rich soon." Like, I don't know about that, but okay.
Hey, listen, wear your age, wear your age is a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Don't think that people are going to look out on that. People will look up on that. They'll think, wow, that's really cool. I think you should flaunt that more, that you're a younger person doing this.
Yeah.
I think it'll be nicer for people to hear. I mean, listen, it's a big feedback because I was going to be tough. That's the internet can be a very cruel place. And the best you could do is anytime you get negative feedback too, you just think of that person as like some person that wished that they were trying to do it, but that were too lazy,
Yeah.
so they just were getting mad about it. And that's kind of how I let any bad feedback on my channel go. Usually, you'll probably get 99% great stuff, 1% bad, if that, maybe even less.
Yeah.
And never focus on the bad. That's what, then they win. The trolls will win. That's what I would say.
Especially for me, like whenever I see a bad comment, I'm like, oh, look at this person. Like, they're not doing their job. They're just wasting their time. Like, hello there. That's like my comment back.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Sometimes, yeah. My favorite comment back to negative comments is, hey, do you have a link to the video where you did it better than me? You know, like, obviously they don't. So you just, then they realize, oh, yeah, good point. Or if it's really obnoxious, I just ban them from my channel. I go, I don't need your negativity in my life. Bye. I hide them from my channel. That's the best feature. They don't know that they're being hidden.
About being a creator is that if there's like a bad comment, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like the best part.
Sometimes it's nice to turn people, but yeah. I also think sometimes when you get a video that gets a lot of views, you forget it. Like, what, some people are just making a comment, not necessarily to you, but to the overall people that, like, they're trying to make a funny comment, thinking I'm going to get a bunch of laughs. They don't realize that the creator is actually reading the comments going, oh, that's kind of not nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to actually cut off. We're going to talk behind the scenes and all that stuff. But this is what we got on today. Should you film in 5K and what's the real purpose? This video covered it all. Now, it is 1 hour, so I'm going to actually cut it off.
You should film.
All that stuff.
Yes, film in 5K. Yes.
Yeah, you should film in 5K. You heard it. Me and him. You should really film in 5K, because if you don't, then in the future you can't crop it into your video and go like, ooh, it's right there. Because with like 1080 or 360, you're like, I'll zoom in, and like so blurry, so pixelated. Or for like 5K or like 2.7K and above, like I zoom in and like I see it's like those telescopes that you see in the Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
You there we go. Covered it right there in one sentence. 1 hour summed up in one sentence.
Yeah. See you guys on the next video. This is Danny Black. I'll link his channel in the description down below if you want to go ahead and check him out right there. I'm Reagan from ReaganVFilms Tech. Talking mahalo. We'll see you on the next adventure.